Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music.
What is up, guys? I'm Andres.
This is RB3.
I'm Sabrina.
And this is our review of The Way Back, the Ben Affleck movie that got released on VOD early. I'm excited to talk about this movie because it kind of surprisingly got a lot of buzz, which I wasn't expecting when I saw the trailer. I can maybe speak for Sabrina because you and I talked about it.
Yeah.
But RB3, you were hyped for this movie. So
Absolutely.
I want to go straight to you. What are your thoughts now that you finally saw The Way Back?
Well, listen, like there's certain genres of movies that I'm always gonna have a place in my heart for, and that genre of like old grizzled men who have to find their way out of like alcoholism or drug addiction by pursuing their passions. I mean, Logan is like a perfect example of like the superhero movie that does it. Unforgiven. I just have a soft spot in my heart for movies that do that. So this looked like that kind of movie with basketball. And which is my favorite sport. It was like the perfect combination. You're up in your Phoenix Suns. I'm obviously a hardcore Lakers fan, but this movie focuses on like high school basketball. So it's it got that like aspiring, like, using your power to empower the youth, that kind of underlying theme. And what does that represent? So I went into this movie super excited, knowing the director, Gavin O'Connell, who did Warrior, and he did, which is one of the finer sports movies, I think, of the last decade, on top of The Accountant with Ben Affleck, which I also think is a really underrated movie. I just knew this was going to be something I was going to enjoy. So actually seeing it, it was exactly what I hoped it would be. It was a brilliant movie. I think Ben Affleck gives one of the best performances of his career. It's a lot of like autobiographical stuff because he does deal with a lot of alcohol addiction. He's been in and out of rehab throughout a lot of his life. So seeing that portrayed on screen, he acts with like this earnesty and like this vulnerability that I think is really heartfelt and inspiring. And even though basketball is a part of the film, it's not the overwhelming part of the overall plot. It's really just a character-driven piece that I think is really well done. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was genuinely surprised because I mentioned it on the Ben Affleck episode. I thought this was a Christian movie and he was just doing one of those like low budget from the trailer. And
Yeah.
I'm really, really surprised because it completely, because of that, just flew under my radar. And then I went to go see it in theaters right before everything shut down. And I was so genuinely touched by this film. As we said, Ben Affleck kind of plays a version of himself in almost every movie he's in. And I think this is that best version. I think this is his best performance literally ever. I can't think of one that I enjoyed more than this one because it was, as you said, so vulnerable, so heartbreaking, so raw. He's picking pieces of his own personal life and putting it into this. And gosh, it really, really got me. I love this. And as you said, like basketball is an element in it, but it just pushes the story forward. It helps drive the story, but it doesn't like rely on all this basketball stuff. You don't have to be into basketball to enjoy this movie at all. A lot of the dialogue was so authentic. It went in directions that I didn't expect it to, a lot with his son and his ex-wife and things like that. And so it really surprised me. Like when I was sitting there in theaters, I actually like cried. I went with Ben Goddard and he was like, "You good?" I was a mess. It is so genuine and so authentic and so raw. So I applaud Ben Affleck for giving us a performance like this. It's kind of like something we mentioned with Shia LaBeouf and Honey Boy. It's probably a little cathartic, a little therapeutic to kind of just put all your emotions out there, put this entire thing out on the table for everybody to see. So I am applauding Ben Affleck for all of that because that was very heavy and he's really strong to be able to kind of put this all out on the table and be so vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on the Ben Affleck episode, so I mean, go check that out if you guys haven't checked it out. It's a great episode, but we talked about how he usually has the tendency to choose roles that are kind of similar to him and that he kind of ends up playing himself in most of the movies. We talked about it in Gone Girl especially, but this one feels even more so, especially with the alcohol results and everything he was dealing with in real life and that he's dealt with pretty much for the entirety of his career. His alcoholism has been a big part of his life. And the idea of incorporating Gavin O'Connor, who does that kind of RB3 style, like sappy old man movies, comeback movies, and incorporating all these elements of like a family, dealing with loss, dealing with struggles. That was an interesting aspect. I for one, I'm on team RB3 when it comes to basketball. Like anything basketball, give it to me, especially right now where I'm just like I see clips of old time basketball and it brings like tears to my eyes because I'm missing it so much. So this was like right up that lane for me where I was like, motion, yeah, pass the ball, yeah, point guard, yeah, 3-point shot on the edge. I was like, yes, give me all that stuff in my ears. It feels good. But that was one part of the movie. What I really love about it, if I'm being honest, like I've written stuff about basketball before, and I really do feel like there's something about the sport that has a therapeutic effect and of coming together, and at the same time about owning yourself. There's something special about basketball more than any other sport, I feel, about learning to have confidence within yourself and learning to take that ball and to, say, you know what, I'm not going to pass the ball. I'm going to keep it and shoot and score. And I'm going to be confident in my skills and who I am. And that's seen in the movie, especially with the point guard character. I forget his name, but he takes Brandon. A liking to him. Brandon. Yeah. And it's that idea of what basketball is as a sport. I mean, the whole Kobe thing affected me so much this year, if I'm being honest. And his Dear Basketball animation talks about exactly what I'm saying about the idea of basketball being a sport of coming together. So I really like that this movie dived into that. And then the whole alcoholism aspect, I, for one, was so curious how they were going to do it because I knew what he was going to be an alcoholic throughout the movie. But I thought like halfway point through the movie, it was going to be like this overcome motion. And he's going to be like, I overcame it. Time to inspire the kids. And that's not quite what it was. It was a struggle pretty much the entirety of the movie, which was really hard to watch. I mean, I don't know if I'm speaking for you guys, but that was kind of hard to watch for me. I was like, Jesus, man, like, get it together. I thought for as soon as he got the basketball gig, he would be good, but he wasn't. He kept struggling throughout the whole movie. And one of my favorite aspects of this movie, besides basketball, was the idea of revealing information that led him to that point slowly throughout the movie. Because you learn about certain stuff like almost by the third act of the movie that led him to his alcoholism, which I thought was really, really interesting that Gavin O'Connor decided to do. I don't know. What did you guys think about that? Revealing certain things slowly throughout the movie to show what led him to that alcoholism.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that aspect of it because going into it, because something like addiction, something like alcoholism in real life can be hereditary, or you can always have it underlying there and maybe something triggers it. So I love that we just met him. We see him in the state that he's in currently, and we see him go through these struggles. And then, slowly seeing little pictures, finding out information from his ex-wife, seeing like their friends and things that play out like that. I think it was so much more effective than just telling us from the beginning, this is why he's here. It's like it's almost like we're looking into his kind of like memories, because something will be triggering to him and he'll think about his son or something like that. So I think it was very, very effective.
Number 3.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, using that narrative structure really gives you an opportunity to kind of grow with the character. It's like you as an audience member get to experience, get to first acknowledge his sorrows and his sadness, like as surface level, but then upon second thought or upon second viewing, it gives you a whole new perspective on what was happening earlier in the film. And even on the initial watch, it gives you like that kind of eye-opening kind of idea of like, this dude has had a lot that's happened in his life, and these are all the events that led to it. And I think that's really one of the best ways you could tell this kind of story, because a lot of alcohol movies do kind of just start with like, oh, here's the bad thing that happened in his life, and we're just gonna run and go. And honestly, that kind of structure is it is what it is, but they decided to take a risk, and I think it really paid off. So
absolutely. Last thing I want to say is, if I'm being real honest, I think I might be I think it might have been the hype that killed it for me because to be fair, I was hearing Oscar hype, and maybe it's just because we haven't seen a lot of movies this year that people were saying that. But as soon as I heard that Oscar hype, I went in with extraordinary expectations, and what I got was a pretty good basketball movie. If I'm being honest, I thought it was pretty good. My parents asked me about it. They were like, "What'd you think of it?" And I was like, "It was pretty good." Just because I maybe it was the high expectations that got me. Maybe it was the Oscar talk. But overall, I came away with a pretty solid movie. It was pretty good if I'm being honest. I like the reveals. I like what they did with it. And I recommend that everyone checks it out as well. I mean, now is the time, right, to see at least a good movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, this is probably the biggest Oscar contender by default, like, at this point, right? Like,
Portrait of a Lady on Fire, bro.
But that came out last year. Year.
Technically, this year, kind of, sort of.
Yeah,
I'm like stretching.
I don't. I think I already flew that shit, but I don't know.
The thing is, I don't know if you guys have seen it once or if you guys have given it a rewatch yet, or if you even want to. But I gave it a rewatch, I think 2 days ago, and I watched it with Eliza, and the second time watching it, I enjoyed it even more than the first. I truly did. Maybe it is because I already had like known, so then I'm going into it with this like I know how it's going to end and everything, so I'm really paying attention to all the details. But one thing I noticed not that I noticed on the second rewatch, but something that like stood out to me the most was the way it ended, and how we don't know if they win the game. He's in rehab. We don't know. It's ambiguous. We don't know what's going to happen in the future because, of course, relapse is possible, recovery is possible. It kind of ends on that note, and that's something I really loved by it because it is genuine. It's more true to life, and it doesn't matter whether the team wins the game or not, because what happens, like, what matters the most is the effect he had on the team and the team had on him and the changes he's making in his life. So I don't know. That's something that I really, really loved at the ending. And I'm going to be honest, one of my favorite movies this year so far. I know there's like not too much competition, but it really is. I think it's going to stand out for me for like a bit, depending on how these releases go coming up.
Great. Last thing I want to say, guys, real quick, is my favorite running bit in the movie that I thought was so funny was the fact that he was in a Catholic school, and then the chaplain kept telling him to not cuss, and he's like, "Yeah, I got you, man, I got you. Effing get that ball, effing over there, mother." And it's like every single bad word I have ever heard, he would say in the span of 20 seconds, like almost ridiculously, to the point where I was like, "Oh, it's a joke." And I was like, "This is really funny." And every time he's like, "I got you, man. I'm gonna stop cussing until that mother F," and he just kept going. And I was like, "Yeah, that's great." And then even the team at the end, when they were like, "Let's get this effing win," and I was like, "Dude, that's perfect." That's I love that running joke. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah,
but
I thought. Oh, no, I was gonna say, I thought this movie was great. This is probably with you, Sabrina, is probably one of my favorites of the year. So far, again, not much up there. I probably put Onward up there, and which just got released on Disney Plus. Onward and this, and then maybe Birds of Prey might go somewhere in that top 3 area too, potentially. I haven't seen anything else, you know what I mean? But yeah, those. This one's high up there, and I think if it was a fair year and that we had other movies coming out, I still think it would be one of my top of the year too, because I was moved and overwhelmed by both the basketball aspect of it and the personal Ben Affleck aspect of it and the just overall storytelling that they were doing there. So I was highly impressed by The Way Back.
Great. Alrighty, guys, that is our review for The Way Back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments down below what you thought of this movie. Hopefully you guys checked it out. If not, go check it out on VOD. As I said before, why not? Now is the time to watch a good movie. So go check it out. We recommend it all the way through. So yeah, that's our review for The Way Back. You can find me at Squad Leader Ace on social media.
You can find me at Sabrina X Monica.
And at Director RB3.
And obviously follow us on First Cut TMO for all the social media stuff and the First Cut YouTube channel. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't done so already. That's the best way you guys can show us love. So make sure you guys do that. Stay safe, guys, during this quarantine. That is our review. And for the First Cut crew, we are peacing out.